expect what you are expecting. Now, I want to share, in addition to what Prof has mentioned, I'm going to share this presentation. First of all, an introduction to the Erasmus program, and then followed by UiTM Sarawak experience. And later on, it will be, like was mentioned, what are the criteria, and then I will probably in depth explain on what should be included in the application form, the contents right up, and what you should prepare in the preliminary aspect before you can come out with a proposal among the members of your consortium. So this project is co-funded by Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. It is co-funded because it is not entirely funded by the EU or the agency that actually manage this, which is ESCA, and it's some of the funding has to come from the institution itself. And it's that the whole idea is about international cooperation for development in higher education. This is the program that I want to focus on. And if we move on to the next slide. Can we have the next slide? Basically, the next slide is on the objective of the Erasmus program is to support through lifelong learning, education, professional and personal development of people. Now, there are 4 areas, which is on education and training of to improve skills, youth and sports. And if we go into the next slide, it is looking at the specific objective. There are basically 4 objectives, 3 objectives, which is just learning mobility of individuals and group. So individual is like myself. I've learned a lot of things, and a lot of the experience that I have got through the cooperation with other people. And of course, groups will be referring to the group members from each institution. And usually I will explain to you why I want to use the word interdisciplinary when I come to the work packages. And then it is also to promote non-formal and informal learning mobility. This will be more in the form of projects, not so much in developing education program. And the last is more exclusively for the sports section, in which they are talking about the European knowledge and experience, and to develop the sports skills of the partner countries. Moving on to the next. Put forward in your later on in your decision in looking at what aspect of the priority, what aspect of the project that you want to focus on. Number 1, it will be your priorities must have inclusions and diversities. Inclusions including everybody, diversity, culture, social economics, and even barrier that includes disadvantaged people or underprivileged people. So our project should be, if we have that kind of content into our project, it will score a very high point. And of course, in this era of digital transformation, it was not so much emphasized until after the COVID, whereby a lot of our projects, we were not able to move around by physically. So we have to conduct a lot of our training programs, our research collaboration, our research work through digital transformation, using digital tools. So therefore, now they see that there is this success in online discussion and so on. So they also emphasize a lot on digital transformation inclusion in the project. And we all know now the climatic crisis. So it's very focused on environmental and fight against climatic change. In all aspects of project, you must have the element of the UN sustainable goal in environment, because even if you are looking at social and humanities project, anything to deal with UNSG or the environmental governance should be included in there. And finally, of course, it ties on to democratic and common values and civic management. So these are the 4 criteria. And the main features of the Erasmus program are there is a protection, health, and safety of participants. For example, the safety, it means health protection and safety means that if we have made any movement to another country, we should be ensured of security in these aspects. For example, one of our projects, we went to Bangladesh and Pakistan, and in each of these country, there is a criteria that is given by EU that security must be given in such a way that it protects us from any terrorism, any attack. So we move around with security hired by the university, with the military. So we feel, I'm not sure, we feel very, probably when we think that it is very, very, what do you call that, very high ranking people going around. At the same time, we are also a bit, we felt a bit affected in our movement, but it's the condition that is has to be provided whenever we mobilize ourselves to other countries, and particularly for students. If we are involved in the Erasmus student mobility and staff mobility program, all this security had to be taken into consideration. Multilingualism, although we communicate in English, there are a lot of materials have to be translated into the local language of each of our, so that the materials can be understood. So we are fortunate in such a way that for Malaysia, we usually say that we don't need to convert our materials into BM in English, because if you want to convert that into for example, our Cambodian partners, our Indonesian partners, and Thailand partners, they have to convert into their language, and there is a lot of extra work that is input into there. And of course, the correct translation has to be used. And finally, recognition and validation of skill and qualifications. These are us. This is our CV, how we fit ourselves into the program itself when we applied for the project. And the next slide, I actually want to emphasize is communicating projects and the results to maximum impact. Now, in many of our cases, in our research grant that we get from the national level, FRGS and all these other grants that I have achieved, I have got, and the emphasis of dissemination and creating awareness to other parts, to other members or to the public is not so much emphasized. And we are only encouraged to commercialize our product. But in this particular Erasmus project, this dissemination and exploitation is very important. I learned that when I submitted the interim report, that I was expecting a very good result from the evaluation team, but we were penalized very heavily because our communication activity was below par. And this is the communication objectives we have to, whenever we propose our project, the objective has to be very clearly defined, because it actually create awareness and promoting our program, all funded by this Erasmus project, and how it will influence the policymakers, the environment, and the livelihood, the social economics of our target audience is very important and is part of the agenda of the EU program. And then, of course, how we disseminate our activities, the channel of it. We have to really go into particularly like social media, and when they evaluate, they would look into your Facebook and see how many people successfully follow it, how many people likes, how many people comment, and so on. These are also being statistically evaluated by the evaluator. And the timing of our project, of course, it's well monitored. We have to follow according to the time that we have put up in our timeline and come up with milestones. So the reporting of our milestone, our achievement, and so on are actually based on KPIs that will be developed during the proposal for them to see what are we trying to achieve and what are our strategy. And finally, of course, I mentioned about KPIs. We actually measured based on these KPI. So what is the structure of the Erasmus program? It is, they have actually over a period of 6 years, from 2021 to 2027 period. So meaning that these key action are still in place. With number one, the key action plan is on mobility of individuals. These are involving mobility of students, mobility of staff. And normally this will be an offshoot of a key action 2, whereby you get to know the university of your consortiums, and then you can exchange networking, exchange of staff, joint lecturing, etc. But I know that UiTM also have a number of mobility program under Erasmus, where the student move around to other parts of Europe, and also staff mobility in there. But that would be not as close tight as if we have this mobility program and after we have the completed the key 2 project. In fact, at the moment we just got an MOA with student mobility with University of Sapienza in Rome for our students who are following this Erasmus Masters program. And the third one is a key action support to policy development and cooperation. And I remembered one of our top financial staff, I think it's Pendahari. I think I'm not sure whether he's still there or not. He also was a part of this project under the key action 3, because when I was discussing with him on issues of the financial management, when we are managing this money, and he actually mentioned to me that he is also a member. So I'm going to focus on key action 2 because these are the projects that I have been, that all our 7 projects are under this umbrella, which is cooperation among organization and institutions. So there are actually 4 areas that they are looking into, which when we talk about what is partnership for cooperation, this partnership, cooperation partnership, the primary goal of this partnership is to allow organization to increase or improve the quality and relevance of activities. So we develop and reinforce network of partners. So when we have each institution, you have about 4 or 5 partners. There's a lot of interaction among ourselves. And also that if you happen to come across a partner who has the same expertise in your area, you can further discuss and maybe go into share lecture or do common research or come up with research program and so on. And this is to increase our capacity at transnational level, and I think that's what the UiTM is looking for, with the vision of spearheading UiTM into the global scene. And this is a good opportunity, a good platform for you to bring yourself across to the global in the area that you are involved in, science, social humanities, and so on. And then we also are able to exchange and develop new practices and methods by sharing and confronting our ideas. Later on, I will show you how important this last statement is on your proposal to indicate to the evaluation committee that you have this element. And that's why I chose the title, the keyword on interdisciplinary. And then the other type of, instead of improving our curriculum, our teaching skills and so on, is a small scale partnerships, which is looking at programs to reach to school education, adult education, vocational training and training. And these are some of these projects that you can go into, which do not look at development of master's program or degree program or program review, because that part of it, in our experience, when it comes to accreditation of our program to be developed, we face a lot of bureaucratic procedure to get our project completed because of the requirement of procedures that we have to fulfill before we can get our master's program or our any degree program to be endorsed and to be offered, and it takes years. So if you can go into the other projects of this small scale partnership in developing maybe toolkits, developing small modules for not necessary for school, for education in that sense in a formal institution, but also for perhaps rural development program, like improving the livelihood of the practitioners in entrepreneurship or in a farming area or agriculture practice, because I come from agriculture, so I would tend to use a lot of references to agriculture. So these are these areas of it. And the second features of this action 2 is talking about partnership for excellence. So in that point of view, what is the role of the different institutions? Now, the European countries and universities from the European Union are normally known as the program partner. They are the one who, in short, briefly mentioned as facilitators. They will they will look at our program, and then later on they will benchmark it to the other universities in the EU, and not necessarily their own. If they are not high ranking, they will look into the high ranking universities. What are the components? What are the practices that they have to put them on top of the ranking? And so with that, we brainstorm together, and hopefully we can come up with some modules or some good practices that can help both the European and ourselves to move up. So that will be for excellence. And also we are looking into, in our program, although if our title, for example, is a Master's Development Program, we also produce a vocational or professional courses in view of the fact that when any of those lecturers who deliver the courses within this program, you will be, through your networking with the overseas people, through your research, etc., you will be able to develop the skill yourself and become an expertise in that particular area. And therefore, you will be as qualified enough to also conduct professional courses. And so this program also assists or facilitate us in producing modules, curriculums for the for VET courses, so that you have the opportunity not just be able to educate in the formal arena or platform, but also informal. And of course, based on pedagogical perspective, what you have developed for the degree or tertiary level or postgraduate level, you have to lower it down to the professional level, depending on which level you are looking into. And of course, teachers, academics, and Mutta's action, I would not go into further into that. When it talks about excellence, there's similar things, that everything that is the point, the target is it's for quality and for generating our participants or our graduates to excellence. This is a very important aspect, partnership for innovation. In our proposal, they would always ask, what are the innovative elements that you have among your members of the consortium to make this project different from other people? So there is a lot of research background that you have to look into so that you can respond to this particular area. Okay, I think when we started our projects before the COVID, those that we went into Industrial 4.0 and then the computer fluid dynamics, we were looking at how this will be playing a very important role. And this was good because at that time, before COVID, it is not so prominent. And so it was seen as a good foresight of programs to be implemented. And of course, COVID accelerated all this, and we were sort of well received, well recognized for our innovation elements of it. And forward-looking projects, what I've mentioned just now also is that, for example, when you talk about computer fluids dynamics, I think if you ask a mechanical engineering, yes, they know that, they learn that even in UiTM itself, when you have an elective subject of the Masters of Program in computer fluid, I think that elective is not well taken up. So, but the impact of CFD in future for predicting and for designing modules is so great that this project was actually very we were able to get that because of that element. And of course, when we were applying for Industrial 4.0, people were asking us, why are we not looking into Industrial 5.0? So I like to bring you back to the priorities when we are talking about when we develop a program. We cannot be too far-fetched because it has to be complementing to the other partners that we have. And also in Malaysia, we are not, it's going to be very fast moving into 5.0, but I think we are still between 3 and 4. So why should we go into 5 when our community, are not even familiar with IND 4.0. That is the argument that we had put to win that part. And the projects, capacity building projects, so it's mainly, if you look at this, is all about capacity building, all about developing individuals, and also some elements that you can design to improve the institution human resource. So like what we are involved, what the project that we are looking into is actually both of them, a capacity building project in the field of higher education. And also, I mentioned to you that we also deal with the vocational education and training, the professional courses. And I don't have to go into detail of all this development, because I think we are also familiar with developing our project, and also our now with the micro credential and the professional courses that many of us are involved in. And the other two, which I'm not very familiar with, which is the project in the field of youth. And if I read through that, it's about youth in the area of disadvantaged country or underprivileged, or how you can come up with projects involving youth in leadership, in entrepreneurship, and so on. So these are referring to this project. And the other one, of course, sports. I would not delve into that. And those of you who are in the sports field, you would know what you want to do to improve your sporting facilities around you. And so it's just that you know that this Erasmus project, you can focus on this field of sports because it is specially designed for that. And must be remembered that these are not for profit sport event. If you organize any sport event, it is for more on friendship and networking. Oh, I think, yeah. Then moving on to partner countries. Who are your partners? How do you get partners? And this EU member state and third countries to the program, they have divided the different, there's in the next slide, and they have different, your members of your consortium can come from the from different zone, different areas, which in the next slide, the list of EU countries who can be your program countries. So I listed up here, if we can, I think I will show it, yeah. So in the first slide on the EU members, so these are the EU members that are part of that you can connect with, and they are categorized as the program partners. So it's very important that I used to, whenever I give any talk to on networking and getting to know people from other parts of the world, I always encourage that when you go for a conference, you don't just present the paper and disappear, but get to network with them, and especially from the EU, because most EU institutions are involved in this Erasmus project. And of course, they also would like to have applied for more and more Erasmus project, because that will also help them in their research area, and also networking is also part of them. And so if you have any partners from these countries, if you want to start to prepare for a program for an Erasmus grant, get to know anyone from this country, and you will be able to, if you know somebody from Spain, for example. I actually got this information. I got into Erasmus project through my connection with Aix-Marseille University, because they were the leaders, so they wanted to include Malaysia into their project, so they invited me to be part of it. So from there, you can spread. There were no connections within the European Union, so you don't worry about the European Union. Let them take care of them. But on our end, we will look for perhaps Asian partners. Within Malaysia itself, we have to able to connect. So if you are a frog under the coconut shell, of course you won't be able to go very far. But if you are very extrovert in research connection, in getting people, then it is very easy for you to find members from any institution to be part of the program. Now, sometimes you can also, or otherwise, you can go into the directory of the EU, whereby, for example, myself, it's already in there. We are given an account. So some people would search members from the university through this directory, and they will write to you, to you and ask you, do you want to come out with a research project together? And so that's how we get connection. So it's very, it's conferencing that actually bring us to connection to the other places. So these EU members countries, and then the next few slides are the third countries association. Third countries, they are countries that are outside the EU, but they are also eligible to be members, to be partners of this consortium, and categorized as third countries associated to the program. Now, these are defined by the EU themselves. So if you ask me how they define it, is a very tedious explanation that you can find in if you go into the EU guideline. And we are categorized as the third country and as third country as not associated to the program, but within the constitution of the EU, we are eligible for it, and we are categorized. They have divided that into 11 regions based on the proximity of each country or based on the continents that we come in. So we are, if we move on, now these regions is important for you to identify these partner countries to be in it, because later on when you come out with the project, you have to look for these partners. And we are actually categorized into the Asian region. We have the South Mediterranean region as region 3. The Russian Federation, region 4, they have not changed. It is mentioned, not the Russia itself, but they have changed that partnership due to the geopolitics of Russia and Ukraine. In fact, they have a very special project with Ukraine, which I think is not related to us. We are in the region 5 in Asia. So Asia, within Asia, the Australian and, no, sorry, within the Asian region, we have most of the countries that are around us, the Southeast Asian countries, and we are not, we are grouped among countries like Bhutan, Cambodia, and so on, because we are not under high-income countries, which are Brunei, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, Macau, Singapore, and Taiwan. And of course, if we just ignore that, standing that we are much better than some of the countries listed, it is an advantage to us, because if we are listed in that, we get extra score, extra marks, being categorized as a country that is not with high income. And what bracket of the socio-economic sector. So I was always, sometimes when I discuss with people around here, especially some politicians, they said, why Malaysia is grouped with Cambodia and Bangladesh and so on. So I said, I don't know. This is the way the EU has defined us. And to them, they are not happy, but to me, I'm happy because I have easier access, more points to get the project. So if we move on to the next slide, I just listed up here because I assume that this slide will be project, so that you will know if you have any connection with any of this region of this country region that has been categorized by EU. When you apply for your grant and looking for members of your consortium, then you can refer to this category that has been done. So having shared with you this initial introduction, the preliminary of this Erasmus project, I would like to share with you the projects that we are involved in. That is what is the area that we are actually looking into in the capacity projects in higher education. And as I mentioned to you that I will, this is in the next slide. I'll mention to you that our involvement is looking into, if we zero it down, it's about building programs. So we are looking at the postgraduate program. If you can move to the next slide, please. Then we are looking also into the training of staff. And later on, I will show you what it means by training of staff and establishment of an excellent lab. And so then I will show you the how UiTM Sarawak got into the consortium. That will be, if you move on to 2 more slides, I'm already in, I finish off with this slide. So if you can move on to the next slide. The next one, next, until you see the arrow. Okay, this one. So I like to share with you how UiTM got into the consortiums. Now in 2012, the Sarawak Convention Bureau, which is under the Ministry of Tourism, and under their MICE program, they established this agency called the Sarawak Convention Bureau, in which they have very strong commitment to help institutions and associations within Sarawak to bid for conferences, to bring in these conferences into Sarawak. And of course, if you ask why, a lot of reason, and I would not be able to tell you that because I'm not able to share with you in this platform. Actually, there are 4 of us from here, from UiTM Sarawak, in which I was leading the project with Dato' Rector Prof. Dr. Ling and Dr. Talani. We teamed up with Australian consultancy called the Gaining Edge in event management to conduct a study on legacy impact of conventions. So that study actually bring us to look at what are the tangible and intangible benefits of having conferences in here, and how it helps in the development of the Sarawak government. And then we also work out the framework for it, and today it is a framework that can be, that this legacy impact can be measured. And SCB, in short, is one of the very early, we are one of the pioneers of these legacy impact studies. I will leave that from there, and I just want to tell you why I was involved in this SCB, in which it was way back in 2012, whereby they approached UiTM Sarawak through me to ask whether we want to bid this conference, which is the International Organization for Science Technical Education. In short, it's called IOSTE, which was held in Tunisia. So they pay for all the travel expenses, accommodation expenses, and all the allowance expenses for me to go and bid this conference from this organization. And I think I took this challenge, and when I went there, I found out that it was more challenging, and I had a lot of anxiety to prepare this bidding and present it to the board members to bring this to Sarawak, and how you want to fight with the other countries, the other institution from, I remember it was from Portugal, and then another one was from Africa, and another one was from the Middle East. How I was able to convince them to come to Sarawak. So successfully I did that, and of course today I am the chairperson of this IOSTE, the International IOSTE organization. So, and our next conference is in Dublin, and then in 2026 we will be coming back to Kuching to organize the next IOSTE. So I hope you will take this opportunity to come to Kuching and also be part of the organization to be involved in this networking. But back to there, why I put that as my first stepping point stone is that when I saw one of the paper being presented, it was a paper that was a project related to Erasmus program, and it was the ICE Marcel's team. And I saw the questionnaires that the paper, the outcome was very, I think it can be also implemented in Malaysia here, and it's called bio-netizen in the development of the country's STEM. And those questions that they interpreted was just trying to look at the biological, to look at the understanding of teachers in the role of science and technology play in building up this community. So they gave me that set of questions, and I collected the data from institutions from Sarawak, and also from training colleges in Sarawak. And we generated a lot of papers being published. And I believe that, so of course, it led to 2014 when the French came to UiTM, came to Kuching for the IOSTE conference. We call it IOSTE Borneo. It was there that I think with the what they have observed, how we organize the conference to very high standard, they felt that UiTM is a good partner to go with for the next Erasmus project application. So between 2014 and 2015, we worked together. We had a lot of meetings, and I think at that time online meeting was not very popular that yet. How we communicate is all through emails. We didn't even have the platform of WhatsApp and so on, and I don't have social media. So it goes through email, through written communication. And we came up with this project, and I would like later on I will share with you what is involved in this project. And it was a first time for me and first time for UiTM, and we were we were successful in that. So it gave us a lot of motivation. And then, of course, we got that project called the BLTEAE, just now our moderator, moderator has mentioned. From there, we, because of that platform, and I was included into the EU account. And so I am not sure how I got invited into the second project, which is called Foodie. Which is the Master in Food Processing and Technology, led by UiTM. We worked together, and then we got that project in 2017, and we just completed it last year. And subsequently, one of the partners in this consortium, they were very impressed with our performance, and so we worked together again to apply for. We submitted 5 projects in 2018. Yeah, 2018. And out of these 5 projects, in fact, I prepared one project as a leader, and Prof. Ling also prepared a project as a leader for another project. Altogether, we submitted 5. And that year was very fruitful. We got 2, which is on Industry 4.0. And then the other one was applied, which is on computer fluid dynamics. And so we had that 2 projects, and following that in 2020, when you apply 2020, application is in February. And then by August, September, you will know the results, and the actual implementation is always in November. So we were very lucky that we got another project, which is the family business. And then we were not so successful in the Belgium-based Erasmus project, but we managed to get the EDIVICON through the Denmark. And these are partners that our first partner from our first project, we spin off and regroup ourselves and applied for this Danish grant, also under the Erasmus project. And this is the EDIVICON, which we started last year. And this year, actually, we end of last year, 2022, when the announcement was made, we also were successful in getting the 7th project, which is the Smart City project. This is the first one after COVID, and we had a lot of technical hitch on getting this project accepted by UiTM and so on, because this is the first time this project on accepting the agreement, and all the agreement is done online. And I think Prof. I think Yusuf Osman, if I'm not forgotten, and Prof. Azura, we were at the very beginning, we were having a lot of technical issues to complete our application and acceptance of this project. And of course, it was not just UiTM. I think there are a lot of partners from Cambodia. And so we have cleared that. We have not started this project because due to some technical issues and resubmission of the proposals. And I believe we should be able to kick off this meeting kick off this project in April. And this is led by UiTM, it is being led by MU. So the next slide is showing you the different projects, the 7 projects that we have. In each project, we have to give a short name to the project. So therefore, when you come out with your project title must not be too exclusive. It has to be seen as an applicable title to whereby it can be emulated, not just by the group, but by other institutions if they want to follow. And so you can see all these beautiful acronyms of our project, and all the design that we all come out with. So somebody proposed, and then we go through a series of agreement, consensus, comments, and feedback from our members to come up with this logo that we have. And of course, you see that Smart City, the logo, it's not the logo yet, it's just the icon to show Smart City. But because since we haven't started. So what I would like to show you in the next slide is what is involved if you successfully get a project. In the project, the whole methodology is divided into work packages, and there are 7 packages. The first one is the preliminary, where we identified professional skills and so on. So if you look at this first one, it's a preparation stage where we do a lot of research, we do a lot of analysis, and that's where if you have members of different discipline, comes in, and also discipline from other partners from other overseas, you will be able to collect this data and come up with a document as required for deciding to develop whatever courses, whatever needs, from the needs that you are able to do it, which is a prelude to developing courses. So in this particular case, whereby we have to do a lot of literature research and look at what is blended learning, how blended learning, this project is on blended learning in teachers in Europe and Asia. So we look at, from our perspective, how much blended learning is being accepted in the higher institution by going through some interviews of selected interviews. So what we did was, in this case, we looked into the list of 400 plus higher institution in Malaysia. And then we single out, look at the different university who practice blended learning, and then we narrow it down to get more detailed projects. So it is a very big project. And then UiTM, no, I think this is not the project that we are leading. And then somebody has to consolidate all the findings of the different partners from different countries to come up with a document. While on the other side, our European partner is also doing the same thing, and then they benchmark and they come out with moving on to work package 2, where we are developing the modules of blended learning and all the toolkits and practices that helps. So that is in development 2. And during that development, this is the nicest part, but of course, you get to travel. We went to during our kick-off meeting, we went to the project leader country that is in France. We spent 1 week there, having a very intensive brainstorming and discussion on what we should, how we can complete our work package 1. And then when we move on to work package 2, I forgot where we went. Actually, we went to for this particular project, I think we only have 1 European visit, but then we already developed our program and we improved our program and try an error of our program in Bangladesh. The first country we went was Bangladesh, and then followed by, then we went to Pakistan. And from there, we had a meeting in Bhutan. So this is another story, that how we get involved, getting into Bhutan, and UiTM Sarawak is quite famous in Bhutan because of our networking. The first time I went with Dato' Rector. And in fact, even now we have a project, Erasmus project with Bhutan, supposed to have a steering committee meeting in Bhutan. It's being cancelled because Bhutan has not opened its border to accept people. So if all this, if there was no COVID, I think I would become a Bhutanese also. So in any case, that is year 2, when we have to make sure that we have completed all our programs, and then we move on to year 3, whereby it will be a sharing and publishing and dissemination of our activities. And on top of that, of these work packages, it involves 3 other packages. So this is just what we have done through during how we develop these programs. And also here is more detail on what we actually do in work package 1, work package 2, work package 3. And these work packages is derived, that this deliverable is actually worked up during our methodology in our proposal. So it's a very tedious way of how we can convince the evaluation committee that we are able to carry out all these work packages, because each work packages have its objective, have its methodology, has its KPI, and so on. And then we also have to make sure that each of the partners have a role to play. And in this particular case, UiTM was in charge, was involved in the sharing and dissemination activities of all what we have done to the to beyond our consortium. And in that process, the whole project management have to also, in our proposal, also have to show that the ability of our management will ensure the success of this project. And so how are you going to do that? It has to be very specifically spelled out. And then how we assure the quality of this project. So there is an evaluation form at every time, every meeting, every work that we have done, it has to be evaluated. For example, if we have meeting, we have the evaluation form on asking, the usual thing, the evaluation form of whether the speakers are good, whether the relationship among members are of quality, whether you agree or not. And for any deliverable or documentation, we have this quality team to also review all our report, all our document to ensure that it reaches that level of quality. So that WP6 involved in that. And then WP7 is a communication dissemination, in which I shared with you earlier. And also it involves how do we ensure that this project will be sustainable? Are we going to stop here and that's it and buy and no more? But what are our plan of our exploitation plan of continuing beyond this project? So it goes into networking, and as a result, you have already seen that we were successful in getting a second Erasmus project out of this to ensure the propagation of this to sustain our initial idea, our initial project. And WP8 is just the management level of how you manage, how many meetings you have, how you manage, and what are the success story. And you have to write reports, interim reports, all the financial reports and all this. So all these are to be written up and show to the project. And I think you have to move on to that project on WP7 already. I did not follow this. Can you move on to the next slides? So this is the 3 years implementation project on what we are going to, how we are going to achieve. And then the next slide will reflect the actual activity that we are going. What is our objective? What is our outcome is being reflected in this, and our project is to come out with a 20 module to come out with for this blended learning toolkits and good practices. So this one is, I mentioned to you earlier, our methodology are divided into different packages. So the WP1 is the preparation stage, P2 is the development, identifying all the modules that we want to develop. And then P3, package P3 is when we have gathered all the information. This is the implementation stage, the trial and error, the pilot project aspect of it is at WP3. And then also WP4 is the outcome of whereby we gathered how successful our modules has been developed to ensure that this we have reached all our objectives and the best practices. And P5 is the dissemination if we so we have to actually space out all these all these packages within the 3 years that we are involved. So the next slide actually indicates just now I mentioned to you on the P6, P7, P8, which is on quality. How do we have quality assurance? And then P7, the communication that I mentioned to you. And this is the outcome of year 3. In which then the last part is the meetings. How do we network? How do we get together? How do we get the tasks done and so on? And what are the mitigation that we have to do? We have to ensure. And so the next slide will be the challenges and the potential and the risks in each of these. This is the outcome of what we have done. If we move on to the next slide, the next slide is a very simple, just a few words. Can we move on to the next slide, which is the challenges and potential risk faced in each of our work package? We have to previous slide. We have to state what are the challenges that we are going to expect, what are the risks that we will face, and what are the mitigation that we have to put across to ensure that what alternatives that we have. So these are very much the practical, the work ethic, but actually when we come to human relationship, we have a lot of problem. We have the work ethics issue due to different cultural background, and in some countries it's very hierarchical. Sometimes the top management go and attend meetings, and then when they come back, it's not them who are attending the meeting, but it's the supporting or the or the next level of will be doing the work, and there'll be a lot of miscommunication, a lot of work not done because of the dissemination of the instructional work task is not transferred, is not delivered properly. And then of course when it comes to face-to-face communication online, there's a lot of difficulty in poor internet connections from countries like Bhutan, sometimes Bangladesh, and even Pakistan. So they may miss out on this. And also, I think you would know that communication technicalities in online is very difficult. There will be some dominant people who are always talking, and there are some withdrawn that you never hear the voice at all. But of course, it's so much different from when you are face to face. So these are the challenges that we face, that you have to face, and you have to learn how to be very mentally strong to have this kind of issue. So at the end of it, there are still some pictures that we show. We have the kick-off meeting at Marcel. This is a complete project that I can share with you. Of course, the excitement of being able to stay one whole week in a country to do work, to do workshop, to conduct courses and so on is really very rewarding. And so when come to face, we not just meet people, but we are also given the role of leadership. For example, you can see the bubble on the bottom so on. And the next slide was the training workshop that we had. The next slide that I mentioned to you at Bangladesh. I also mentioned to you that in Bangladesh, we have to, that is the next slide. Bangladesh, that we had to be given security. So these are the interesting area. I think our slide disappeared. Are you able to come back with the slide? Okay. Going into, of course, then the next slide, or this is the last slide and the final curtain. Actually, before this, we had a slide on where we, when we were in Pakistan. And after that, we had, even before that, backward to Pakistan. Go backward to Pakistan. Are you able to go backwards two more slides before that? Yeah, this is in Pakistan, Islamabad. And then we went to Bhutan for our steering committee meeting. And finally, we have, now we have to move forward now. We have already left Bangladesh. We have, this is Bhutan. And finally, we met at Kuching at the conference that we organized, the final curtain. The next slide. Yeah, this is the slide that eventually they come to UiTM. Come to Kuching for the conferences that we organize, and that wraps up our project in the networking. But our sustainability continuation is our dissemination activities, all the module that we have developed. We were financed with 5,000 euro to go to different places to share these these skill training modules. We were invited to Sabah, UiTM Sabah, conduct our courses. We conducted a few courses in Kuching itself to the surrounding teachers around the area, and also, of course, our own campus. And this was very timely because we finished this project in 2017-18, and then COVID came, and we actually this project has given us a lot of experience. We share publication of papers in journals. We also produce an index, high index proceeding, and then we also produce a book on blended learning good practices with a contribution from the different members. So this is the project that we have, that I share with you on actually what are the experiences of achieving this project. And I think what you have heard is only the cream part. You have not, I did not share with you the actual activities. So you have to be very ready when you have this consortium to face these challenges that you will face. So what I'm going to do next is just is to prepare you. What does it involve to apply for a project, and what are the criteria and what are the procedures? Hopefully I can finish that in half an hour. And I'm focusing also on capacity building in higher education. They have actually, EU have actually changed a few of the objective and their cooperation projects after the COVID. And so when you want to build a team, when you want to build a consortium team, first of all, of course, you look for the partners of from the countries that I have shown to you. And those partners, one institution, you don't look for 2 experts in food tech or 3 experts in food tech, and then that will reduce your scope, your limitation of members in your project. You have to go into interdisciplinary because there's a lot of social survey studies and so on. So that part of it, first you must look for the partners, and then your consortium must be in the direction of multilateral partnership from active in the field of higher education. If you are, because I'm looking at higher education because we focus on our key action 2, which is on capacity building in higher education. And your project must be relevant to the universities and so on. And then the social recovery, growth and prosperity and so on. Now, this particular part, I want to share with you that how do you write to convince that you are the right partner, the right consortium, and for the right project. So in your initial, if you are the leader, you have to ask your partners, first of all, to describe the strength of the university. What is the strength of the university? I think when I did the one as a leader of Industry 4.0, I think it was a very good timing because UiTM come up with this what is it called? Like transformation, education 4.0 transformation. So I use that a lot of background to say that this is the vision of UiTM, to go into AI, to go into the digital economy. And at the same, so where do we stand? And we are at the beginning phase, and we need a lot of input for our university to be seen as, to be recognized as a university that can offer this Industrial 4.0. So we talk about our vision, we talk about our strategy, and we talk about, I think there was one area, I cannot remember now, whereby UiTM wants to go into the high-tech excellent classroom or something like that. There was a very good write-up for that. So I back up with that. And then, of course, our role of UiTM in the country development. So that part of it, we have to go into the need analysis. We have to look into the industry, for example, IND 4.0, how relevant it is to the country. And of course, we have the policy, we have the strategic plan on digital economy. I don't know what is the name, exact name of the policy. We get into that. And then we look into the labor force. For that, the human resource requirement for this industry. If Malaysia embark into this industry, where do our human resource come from? So UiTM and another partner from another university, we have UTM and we have UniKL. We got 2 public university and then we got 1 private. We are able to say that, okay, these three institutions will join hand in hand to ensure that we are able to generate, to produce graduates with that skill. If we provide this program to meet the country's needs and requirement. And the one that I mentioned is what is the target? In fact, in Malaysia, I think there is one from MITI or from MITRE or something. There is this projection of how many people of that skill that Malaysia wants to do it and so on. It's also in the policy of the digital economy. So you have to quote that. And then at the same time, you ask your partners from other countries do the same thing. You come up with a template based on the requirement of the application form. All these are not loose. They are all guided by a template application, just like FRGS, just like PRGS. You have to produce that according to their guidelines. But the content, you have to be very strong. So to meet that content, you have to do a lot of research work at the very beginning. And then after that, you indicate the strength of the university, then you indicate the needs of the of the country. And also, you must also level Malaysian status in this field compared to among the world. You can compare China is already 5.0 and so on. And or no need to look so far. Just talk about benchmarking ourselves to Singapore is good enough already. And so with that, and then if you have a partner in Indonesia, they have to do their own part also. And as a project leader, you have to consolidate all this and write a paragraph which requires, I think there is a limitation of the write-up of this particular area to meet this requirement of this international cooperation project based on this 4 statements that I have shared here with you. And then the next slide will look at cooperation among organization and institution, which you have to show in your proposal what area of cooperation that you are going to do with the partnership. How are you going to, how do you cooperate with one another? And then the small scale partnership, also the same thing. And then, of course, you have the next criteria that they ask you, which is how do you show to them that you are also looking for partnership for excellence. So what we have done here is actually is quite common. It's quite a standard procedure from one project to another. But of course, the different needs is different. For this particular case, we said that, okay, if we were given the equipments for us, we will develop a center of excellence to be our resource and learning center. We all our participants will be involved, and this center of excellence will be co-funded, and the university will give us the infrastructure, the buildings, the hard core, while the project fund that we allocated for acquisition of this equipment will be used for making sure that our delivery of our program of high standard digital approach and so on. And innovation, I mentioned to you already, it is more on how our alliances of our members and what we project our project on the sustainability and the of this and going beyond our consortium, reaching the other members. It's just like the ripple effect. So we have to explain how we are able to demonstrate that. And then projects, of course, this one I have already mentioned. And now, what are the priorities area I want to reiterate again, which is the next slide. The priorities that if your element of all your rights up, keep on touching, the next slide, you keep on repeating into the element of Green Deal, green technology. How do you do that? I think in every aspect of our area of expertise, green is you cannot escape from that. And then, of course, I did mention about digital transformation. We are not so, I think this integration of migrants in our higher education, I think we are not so, it's not so prominent, but they have a special project, which is the Strength 3, structural reform project, is particularly only for Ukraine. But you can be involved in that Strength 3 project not if anybody suggested a project for Ukraine. I think this is their priority now of how to restructure the university in the Ukraine. You can actually help, and you know, our contribution will be very good because European gap level of gap between a third world country and the European, the European may not have that foresight of the from how do you start from the bottom to the end. They may be too technical, so our level can help and contribute to that. But what we look at, and our focus in our own project is on fostering access to cooperation in higher education and transformation in higher education. So we write our project all based on the question that they put across for us to fill in. We all talk about higher education with green component, with digital transformation, and instead of integration of migrants, we focus on gender. On gender equality. We are quite lucky that in my consortium of IND 4.0, we have a lot of partners from Cambodia and Europe, Cambodia and Indonesia, which are male dominant. In UiTM, our members are 4 ladies and 1 guy, and the European are very balanced. So we were able to, when we come up with the statistics of the ratio of the gender, male to female, we are almost equal. So that part of it, you have to be, because they're very sensitive on gender. I move on. Don't want to talk so much about gender, but you have to put that into consideration. Now, if you get a country which are male-dominated institution, then you have to make sure you balance it up. Now, geographical coverage, which is the next slide. These are very important. Who do you look at? What do you look at? Who should be your partner? There is a minimum. There's no maximum. There is a minimum. I think a maximum. There is no limitation. But when you decide how many partners you want to establish the consortium, you have to look into the funding aspect. If you have too many partners, then all this funding of 1 million euro is diluted and allocated small chunk to all these partners, then you won't get much. For example, our Industrial 4.0, we have 16 partners, and each partner gets about 40 to 50 euro in conducting our courses, and also that include our travel costs, which I'm not going to talk about here. The travel costs, the cost of stay, the staff costs, etc. Then in another project, we have 22 partners. So we get only about 30 plus, about 50% less of the project allocation. And in another project, we have 12 partners. We get about almost 80,000 euro. You convert to Malaysian, it's a lot of money. So you have to consider that. And then there is a criteria in which you must have at least 2 EU member states or third countries associated to the program. So you have to refer to the slide that I show you which country it is. And then at least 1 eligible third country not associated to the program. And then for the 2 eligible third countries not associated to the program for region 1 to 11. And not necessary that you have to get one of them, but at least you have, for example, IND 4.0, we have members from 2 institutions from Rome. We have the University of Guillermo, very hard to pronounce the Roman words. And then we have University of Sapienza from Rome. And then from Greece, we have Open University, Hellenic Open University. We have Metropolitan College University. And we have 2 other agencies, which is agents of digital background to help us to do all this digital thing, to instill all the digital platform, creating moods and so on. One from Greece and one from Britain. One from Germany. And then for Asian partners, we take Cambodia, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So it's not necessary that we take one of each, but you must take at least one or two from this region. And in each of these region, for Asian, the partner countries, that is the countries that are not associated to the program. It means we are not EU, but we are eligible. So we have to have from EU at least one higher education institute from the EU member. But like Rome, we have two. Italy, we have two. Athens, we have three. There are some other places, for example, for applied, we have only one from UK and one from Spain and one from Athens. So it depends, but at least you have one institution. And then for the partner countries participating of partner third countries like Malaysia, you must have at least two higher institution or two higher institution plus any other government ministry or department. But most of the time, if it is education, we would like to use the Ministry, Department of Culture as affiliated and not as part of the member. But if you want them to be part of the member, you have to justify the presence in that. Then this will be applicable probably for small scale partnership for training those not in the formal education, like rural farmers and things like that, that you need to know what do they actually want. They are the extension workers. They are the people that reach this community, so you can include them. And finally, I must go quickly on this. How is the project being analyzed? Of course, the project, when you first start, it's a commitment of partner institution to the project. Okay, and then we have to sign, and then you have to conduct the need analysis, like I mentioned to you. What are the institution vision? What are the country's vision? So this, and what are the industry requirement based on human resource and number of people? And implementation and monitoring, that will be the work packages that you have to work on. And then the venue of activities, all the activities that you mentioned must all take part. Every partner must be involved in it. And the duration of the project is between 24 to 36 months. And if it is, the maximum is 3 years with a ceiling of 1 million euro. In fact, 3 of our project has been extended, and 1 of the project is asking for extension, and that part is a bit difficult. But both these few projects are involved. The 3 projects got extension because we use COVID as an excuse, and not COVID. We use COVID as our justification, put it this way. So the award criteria. So how are you being being evaluated? So the relevance of the project maximum is 30 points. So your purpose, your objective, like usual, that you need to know the relevant, the objective must be smart and must link to the EU policy initiative. Like just now I was telling you what are the priorities and how EU can add value to our project. That is 30 marks. And then quality of the project design and implementation. How are you going to deliver, express it in the form of packages, each packages, how are you going to achieve it? What are your KPI? What are your risks? And what is the mitigation program and who are involved? That will carry 30 marks. It covers work plan. Also, is a very detailed work plan, even involve how many days you are going to involve, the budget allocation, the quality control, and environmental sustainability. That is the green part that I'm talking about. And then the next one, oh, you have not moved on. Move on to the next slide on award criteria. Okay, this was what I have already said. The next one is about the project itself, the methodology. The next slide. Can you move? Okay, this one. Project design and implementation. They are all presented in the work package form. Okay, and then the next slide, which is also a 20 point, which is the partnership and cooperation arrangement. This is the innovative aspect of how your alliances, how you connect with your partners and so on. The collaboration, the commitment, and later on the composition means your CV, your of the partners, and how you're going to manage the timeline. All these are part of this arrangement of 20. You can score 20 points. And then the next slide is on the sustainability, the dissemination. It means what are your plans beyond the project when the project finish. So that is 20 points of 20 points. Of course, we have a lot of MOU. We said we are going to do networking, MOU, student mobility, etc. The multiplying effects, and if an institution that is not part of your project, if they adopt your program, will it be effective or not, and so on. So the next slide, next one, I think. Okay, this is reference to which strain you want to look into, whether it's strain 1 or strain 2. And I move on to the next one. How to be successful? You have to score at least 60 points. And of course, depends on how many projects are being submitted, and they always take the top part at the top score. But if you look at the last part of it, I think where I mentioned that it looks also at your partners. For example, for Asia, Central Asia, Middle East, and Pacific, for strength 1 and 2, priority will be given to the least developed countries. So that's why our project always involve some countries, some institution from developing countries. I would not want to mention which country, to be in our consortium, to say if somebody submitted, you get 80, I also get 80, but then they will go back and look at who are your partners and where they come from. So to be safe side, to help them to decide, you include those institutions. The next slide, I think almost there. A description. I think I talked already about the work packages. What are the work packages? So I just want to show you briefly the project I'm leading. We have 6 partners. We have got all these, just now I mentioned which university it comes from. The next one is the methodology. The next slide. The methodology, when you write your project, you based on these work packages, the description of the methodology. In fact, they give you a template, but you have to know what to fill in. And the last one is the next slide. I think 2 more slides. This is on the I just want to show you what are the contents of the packages when you write up. And then the last one is our how we wind up our, the next slide, how we wind up our project. We are going to have an international conference of business and technological advances in Industrial Revolution 4.0. It will be held on actually it should be 3rd, 4th, and 5th October in Kuching. So I hope you will all come here to meet potential for. So this is the time, October to 2024. You have enough time to come up with project face to face and discuss. Come to Kuching. And of course, you have to pay to attend the conference and present some papers on that. And the last one, the next slide, oops, I think okay. If you want to know more about this, you can go into this document. You can download. It's Erasmus Program Guide for 2023. Every year they come out with a guide. Say, for example, for the application of 2024, there may be some changes. They may be the same. Use that guide to decide what project you want to go to, which kind of program you want to go through. And if you want to know more detail about our project, you can also go into this link in our Sarawak UiTM website under the Research and Erasmus program. So our last slide, my last slide is our excellent slide that we agreed, that we promised, that we achieved, which is the Erasmus Resource and Learning Center, which was officially, the soft launching was done by our Dato' our Dato' Professor Night Chancellor on the 26th of September last year. And we were able to gather all our equipment worth of 471,000 ringgit, so almost 500,000 to purchase all the equipments that we wanted, that we have in our UiTM, our Excellent Lab Resource and Learning Center. So I think this is the last slide, and that will be the end of my delivery, and I hope that you have learned something. And I know it is not very in depth, not very also in surface, but it would have already provided you, inspire you to go ahead and start looking for partners to form a consortium and work on completing the program. But if you don't know this initial criteria and all these features and so on, you will not know where to start. So I hope this have given you some highlights that it will get you to move on. And of course, when you come into detail of writing, as long as I'm in UiTM, I will be able to help you to guide you to go further from what I have here. And then also the very complicated template that you have to fill in. But basically the gist of it is presented here on how to get that grant. So over to you, Prof. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Margaret. I think it's very, very inspiring to look at the project that you have carried out. And definitely, I think we will be able to learn at least something from the sharing session today. All right. Probably we can take a few questions, Prof. Yeah. You see from the chat box, we have one, actually it's a request. It's not a question. Can we get the presentation slide?
Yeah, I think your secretariat has got the slide because I share with them. I share with them because I was worried that if I present here, there may be some technical glitches. So you can share that slide. Yeah. Is it? That's a chat, right? Yeah.
You will share with all the participants.
You can the secretariat can make it available for everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Or can we take a few questions before we end the session?
Okay.
Probably the participants today would like to ask direct from Prof. Or you can also type into the chat box. Yeah, while waiting, Prof, I have a few questions to ask. This project is I can consider is it's a long-term project, right?
Yes, 3 years.
3 years project. And how many times actually, Prof, you need to present to the funder? Time.
Yeah, only the leader of the project we will have to fill in, present an interim report at 1.5 years. After 1.5 years, we are given 2 months to present our report, and they have a very detailed template for you to fill in. It's an online template for you to write up what you have achieved, what are the KPIs that you have achieved, and so on. And it cannot be long-winded. It has to be short, sweet, and then all the problems that you face, all this you have to put in. That part of it is a very sort of hands-on experience, and then you have to get all this information from your consortium, ask them to express how do they feel, where are they lacking, and so you have to write in there. And then the other one is about the financial expenses. It's a very tedious also, that part of it. Every month we have to record how many days, what have we done. We have to specify it based on for example, in January, as a manager, as a project manager, I have spent how many days in preparing for the kick-off meeting, the arrangement of the meeting, and then the write-out of the meeting, and so on. And then when it comes to packages, deliverable, it has to be in document form. That's why I was mentioning just now earlier that all these documents of deliverable, we have to be reviewed by our quality board. So all these, you almost have every month of a report, so that for me, it depends on your management. So for me, we have progress report every meeting that we have, and then we will compile it I will fill it in as I go along, so that when it comes to reporting to the EACA, I'll be ready. So if you ask me how many, there are 2 reports. One is the interim report. Of course, the other one is, and then the final report. But for requesting for extension of this project, due to COVID, we couldn't meet some of the milestone. We have to write another report to tell them where we are, and so on. So, and then every time we have any problem, any changes that we have to justify and ask for permission to approve our mitigation. So the project leader actually is very stressed.
Yes, especially you have quite big groups, right?
Yes, yeah.
Together with you. Right, we have one questions from here from the corporate FSK. Good day, Prof. Any comment project related to psychosocial and mental health at the workplace?
Okay, I think this is a very good topic, because if you go into it is under the key action 3. Key action 3 is about the change of policy of the university or institution, or any other community. So in this case, I would look at as the higher institution that you want to look for some kind of module to improve your management of the mental health of the staff, or the psychosocial mental health of the staff. Maybe you will come out with modules of monitoring and so on. Toolkits, for example, our project with the Denmark, it is we look into our problem statement was that during the COVID, not many people are ready to go into online, but we are forced into online. And when we did our analysis, using focus group discussion, using the problem tree analysis, and so on, which was introduced to us by our European partner. We were able to identify how to improve the competence of our lecturers. We also did some analysis from collect data from our students, from their experience of how what are the barriers, what are the challenges of learning. They also talk about the teacher's competence, the lecturer's competence, and then they also talk about the environment. So how do we, when we gather all this, now we are trying to develop a toolkit for video conferencing for learning and teaching. So in that area, like the psychosocial and mental health, I think this is one of the priority, because if you look at the, because I did mention here, under the key 3 action, they talk about barrier. What are the barriers? Like, for example, the underprivileged, the OKU, or the distress, mental depression. How do you make sure that your community does not go there? What kind of tool do you have? What are the modules you have? So you can come up with a consortium, come up with partners and form a consortium and put forward. And I think this is very good. The need analysis will definitely tell you that this is one of the priority area, especially after COVID. And I think the other one is about, we have few good topic. Do not know where to go about mental health, food security, road traffic accident. Yeah, all this it has to depend on. So what you need to do is you throw this for example, mental health. Of course, you must get people of the same area, of the same thoughts to talk about mental health. Zarunisa, she has initiated a program, initiated a partnership together, and I'm with them to facilitate them. They came out with initially a very exclusive title, which is not a commercialized title. So after leading them, giving them some idea of how to formulate the title related to what they want to study, and relating to the priorities of the EU, I think they have come up with a very sellable title. I'm not, I don't think I want to share with you. You can look for her, what title they have come up with. So you have to get a few core people from different countries, from different institutions, to brainstorm first, to decide the title. Then only you can move on. So like this one here, you have actually 3 topics here: mental health, food security, traffic accident, and so on. So if you are in the area of road traffic accident, definitely you will have attended conferences relating to this theme, and then definitely you would know somebody in that area. So you connect them, and after they connect, if they are from Europe, they will connect to other people they know of. And then for say Indonesia, you got somebody, and then they will be able to connect. So that is how you get the consortium. And the next question on partner from EU, we need to sign MOU. No. We do not need to sign MOU, but when we agreed to be part of the consortium, we have to sign a mandate. It's not MOU that if you have MOU, I tell you to go through to get your MOU through Nilam is very long time. It takes a long procedure. I'm not saying anything about that, but I think if you want to have a consortium and you want to go through the MOU process, you will not be able to be in time. But fortunately for EU, we have a mandate. The mandate has to be signed by our legal representative. Now, in this case, UiTM, our legal representative is our Vice-Chancellor. And when UiTM was registered with EU, and we have got an identification code number, I think it's a 97 something, I don't know, I forgot already. And every time you apply, you use that code number because it has to be validated. And I think in UiTM, the authority, the designation has been assigned to Prof. Azura. So Prof. Azura can sign on behalf of, because she has been delegated that power, so she can sign that mandate on behalf of the consortium for UiTM. And in each institution, the legal representative have to sign that mandate. And in that mandate, of course, it's a standard procedure that we agreed to do this, we agreed to do that. There's a lot of these criteria. So that is good enough for forming up the consortium. That is recognized by EU. It's only when we come in together, we start to have drafting our MOU with our partners, because we want to go beyond that for networking, for research, collaboration, for student mobility. We have to have MOA, because student mobility, there's a lot of legal procedure like insurance, health, security, and then especially finance. Who is financing this student, etc. So that needs an MOU, but that one can be done once you have the consortium. And many of our partners, they already got the MOU with UiTM. It's just that maybe it's not active, so we just use that to continue our networking. I feel that we have there is no MOU, so we work on that. For example, we just got approved MOU with University of Sapienza, and now we are working on University of Cranfield from UK. So these are, so don't worry about MOU, but you have the mandate. I don't know what is KA171 project. I think key action something. Maybe that is the, is that whose question is that? Is that student mobility 171? I'm not sure what is that.
Yes, Prof. For KA171 is a student mobility under Erasmus.
Yeah. Yeah, I just mentioned to you because it ties up a lot with financial, a lot with insurance, a lot of the safety of the student. So the Erasmus, the agency do not want to be involved in that. It is between the institution to institution. That's why you have the MOA.
Okay. Can we have one last question before we end the session? From the participant?
Yeah, somebody commented very long process. It is a very, very long process because it involves so many people. You have to get a consensus to agree on common grounds to be able to come out with a project to do that. I cannot share with you detailed project description because this is due to patent right and privacy, especially if we are dealing with the European Union countries. The privacy is very important. Privacy Act is very important. Even when we have meeting online, we have to get permission. We have to get permission, or there must be a permission given by every individual in the meeting that it can be recorded. Because we wanted that record, we wanted that to be our document for our meeting. So if they don't agree, then we cannot do any recording. It has to be black and white.
Okay, Prof. I just would like to ask your advice, Prof. I think just now from your presentation, there are two things that's quite important. The first one is the preparations of the proposal itself. Very important. Number two is the networking.
Yeah.
So what is your advice, especially to the young lecturers who just started to explore this kind of how they can get
networking
and also see these kinds of opportunities to get the grants. So how? What is your advice actually, Paul?
My advice is that first thing, go into research. I think UiTM has, especially young lecturers, new lecturers, you have a lot of opportunity for grants, dana cemerlang. In some area, you don't have to have a very detailed evaluation just because you're new, but of course it is being evaluated. Once you get that grant, work on it, and then from that grant, present papers. And of course the limitation, there is a lot of financial implication of how to get your UiTM to sponsor you for the presentation of conferences. But I think nowadays in the grant, there are some allocation for you to go overseas conference and take that opportunity. And I have been evaluating a lot of FRGS and a lot of people forgot to put in that allocation for conference, 10,000 conference. You get that 10,000 should be enough to go to Europe and get into there, or even international conferences within our own region. Present paper, and of course the ITM requirement is that it has to be of standard, and the evaluation committee will decide whether you are eligible to go or not eligible to go. So you partner with prolific writers or researchers who are already very well established. You learn from them. A lot of young lecturers, they, for example, when they hear this presentation, they say, "Alamak, so long process. Where do I start? How do I start?" But you start off with establishing yourself as not just a researcher. You are rich in data so that you can write papers. And when you write papers, you have the chance to go to attend conferences. And I also like to perhaps share with those who are evaluating papers to approve for going overseas. Don't be too strict, especially the young ones, give them some good comments. Whenever I'm asked to evaluate, I would always point out, okay, can you add this information, and not just say, oh, quality is not there, but give some suggestion to improve the paper so that they can go out. Because when they presented the paper, they would receive a lot of feedbacks and comments from the audience who listened to their paper. Then from their comments, you come back and write a good paper for publication, and it should be acceptable because you get opinion from other people. It's a free opinion. Write papers, and then whenever evaluators, reviewers come back with it, don't be disheartened. Take it as a positive attitude. I never look at anything negative when people comment about me. I don't use it. I don't look from the perspective of the negative part, because if you think that if you look at the way and say, oh, it's a way of people stepping your back, then you lose a lot of energy. You lose a lot of what I would call the emotion to this wasting. What I look at, what I will take it as, wow, this is something that I do not know. Somebody pointed it out for me. So I better improve myself. I better take that step to ensure that nobody will do that. So you look at a positive point of view, and that's where you grow. So for young lecturers, don't be so disheartened and say that I have to learn how to teach, I have to do research, because without research, you cannot go anywhere. And research, you produce papers, you go, you network with these people overseas, and I had opportunity. My opportunity was much better than you because I was supported by the state government, Sarawak government, to go. But then I see the fund that are given from UiTM. You have the dana cemerlang, you have then you graduate yourself to FRGS, and from FRGS, I think FRGS is already very good. You can go overseas one time, and you can also do local how many times. So that is one path for you, a door, a journey, a stepping stone for you to globalize yourself. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, I just want to comment here. Like, can you share your successful proposal with us? I mentioned to you earlier that I cannot share with you a full proposal because this is again the what do you call that? Intellectual property rights or something like that, and we have is within that agreement of our mandate and our grant. Because after we have before we can proceed, if we were successfully in that project, we have to sign an agreement to our the project leader signed the agreement between the EU and them, and then we sign our agreement with our project leader. I can comment on your proposal, but I cannot share my proposal.
Okay, that's very clear. Okay, so thank you again for your advice. So on the chat box, you see there is a link, so for all the participants can fill up for the attendance for today's session. I think this will be the end of the session today. We are now means we have taken more than time that we allocated for 12 o'clock. Right. So again, Prof, thank you very much for the inspiring and informative sharing session today. And we hope that with this session, it will actually trigger more for its motivation from the researchers in UiTM to take this challenge to apply for such a very impactful grants. So
yeah, I think just to add on, I think one of the very beneficial benefits from this project is that you get to go overseas. There is 2 study visits in Europe to help to develop. For example, IND 4.0, we went to Rome, and then we went to Athens, and then we also went to Medan, and we are going to Siem Reap next month for our steering committee meeting. And of course, being the project leader, the conference is held in Kuching. So if I were from Europe, I have another chance to go overseas. So each project enables you to at least travel to 2 European countries and within the region 1 or 2 countries. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you again, and we hope we will see you again in our next session, right? And take care and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening.